Perfect.
Owen, it is a privilege to have you on our platform. Just for our followers and those who will be watching this video, this is Minds of Good Health. And really what we're trying to do here, our teleology, our objective is to raise awareness of depression and provide venues and avenues to those who are battling with depression. So really it is indeed a privilege and honor to have you. You've been very generous with your time, so I really appreciate that. Owen, before we get to hectic stuff, I just thought let's get to know you a bit better. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, and I'm really more interested why you are interested in sport.
Well, the interest in sports started a very long time ago as a youngster when things started off. But yeah, so I'm a sports presenter, for a previous professional cyclist as well. Still I've got a very keen interest, obviously, in all sports. But cycling has been my passion for many, many years. I started at the age of 8 years old, competing in cycling, and turned professional in 1998. End of 1998, I turned professional, rode professional till about 2006, and then decided, it's time to call it quits and follow my profession, which is in sport journalism now. It wasn't always that way, but it seemed to find me, and I love it thoroughly. So that's why I've kept at the game. Been in the TV side of things for many years now, and radio started that a bit later on. But it's been a fantastic journey, and I couldn't ask for any better.
That's great. Owen, I often listen to you guys in the morning, and I mean, if you were to ask me those quiz questions that you asked the guys, I think it was around about 8:20. I mean, I don't think I can even get one question right. I'm just created in that way. I'm just rubbish at sport. My friends know that I'm rubbish. I try to watch some football, but I'm getting there. But all hats off to you.
I must be honest with you, because our radio show is so early in the morning, from 5 o'clock until 9 o'clock on Metro FM. It's hard to watch sports at night. So I'm in bed just after 9 o'clock, and I'm up again at 3:30 in the morning. And recently, we've been privileged enough to start a bit later because we're working from home due to the pandemic. And I get to wake up at 4:30, stroll in my gown and pajamas to the computer, switch that on, and then start. But during that time, you're always catching up on sport. You're always reading about it. And obviously, you can't stay awake all night watching all the sport. So you have to catch up on it in the morning as early as possible and report on that as fair and as possible. But it's not easy. And you have to have a passion for it. If you're not a passionate person about sport, then there's no use talking about it. I mean, knowing you, Chris, you know the tourism industry very well. If I had to ask questions on that, I'm sure you get 10 out of 10, no problem at all.
Cool, Owen, and thank you very much. Owen, as you know, we are facing this monstrous COVID-19. And my interest is really into mental health. And a lot of people are really struggling this time just to keep sane because they've been impacted financially, and that is taking a strain. And what I'm trying to do, I'm just gathering people that I know, public figures, to encourage South Africans how to maintain mental health during this time. So just from you, how would you encourage your fellow South Africans to maintain mental health during this time?
Well, first and foremost, nobody saw this coming. So it is an unprecedented time in South Africa. It's in the world, in fact, because nothing like this in our lifetime has ever reached us, where we find ourselves fighting for our lives, fighting for our livelihoods, and being tested, as you've done now for the past 4 months in the COVID pandemic time, coronavirus or COVID-19. So it's been really difficult, I guess, for everybody. Me personally, I mean, I've been affected because I haven't been working on television as much anymore because of the pandemic. There hasn't been as much sport around, so there wasn't been a need for my services. But working from home has changed a lot. We've been confined to working from home and working in a sterile environment all the time. Even though it is your house, I don't get to go to the office. And I've been fortunate enough to still get my income in, but there's a lot of people out there that haven't been able to because they work on a, pay-as-you-go system. So if you don't work, you don't get paid. I know in my industry, that's how we usually work as well. No work, no pay. But we've been able to make it work using technology and using the internet to broadcast our radio show, which has been helpful, and it's been an eye-opener, I guess. But my heart really goes out to those who have been dealt a heavy blow during this COVID-19 pandemic, because it can't be easy. I mean, to all of a sudden lose all of your income and having to fight for just to live on a daily basis, to put food in your stomach and to feed your children, to send them to school or not to send them to school, not being able to pay half of those bills that you would normally pay on a regular basis.
Yes.
Times have changed, and we're going to have to fight, and we're going to have to survive.
Yeah. So, so if someone were to come to you and say, "Owen, look, I think I'm battling," I mean, how do you keep sane? What sort of things do you do to keep your mind straight, so to speak? How would you encourage that individual? Yeah.
I'm fortunate enough because I use my sport as my outlet.
Yeah.
So I think that for me keeps me sane. So there's times when, yes, it's difficult and I feel the pinch, but I get out there and I go and clear my mind by running for an hour, or gymming out in the garage for an hour, or doing something just to keep my mind, to take my mind away from the scourge of COVID-19. There's so much news that we get bombarded with on a daily basis. And we have to comprehend this all, take it all in and make sense of it. And sometimes it's impossible to make sense of it all because there's just so much coming our way. It's all doom and gloom. And if you look at it that way, you'll never see the silver lining. So the most important thing is to take time out and find yourself, talk to yourself and say that things are going to be okay. I always say that talking to yourself is very important. A lot of people will say, how can you talk to yourself? But you have to have those conversations with yourself all the time. It doesn't mean you're crazy. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean anything. It just means that you're being honest with yourself. And motivating yourself all the time. Other thing is to find goals, something to do, keep you busy. So even my DIY, I do a lot of DIY around the house, and I'm fortunate enough also to present a DIY show. That too, just being able to fix something around the house with whatever you got there makes a big impact in my life. So I always say, talk to yourself, keep yourself as healthy as possible, and look after yourself. A lot of people have been, their diets have taken a big knock. And if you don't look after yourself in terms of your diets, how's your mind supposed to stay healthy?
That's very helpful, Owen. I mean, I can attest to that. So I don't know if you know much about me, but I battled with depression. And one of the things in my recovery was to start to be consistent with my daily routine. So I get up at 4 anyway, if not earlier. And I try to read, say a little prayer there and there. And when I used to be active, I used to run. Now I can't run that long because I've got ITP. But I still go for walks. And that really helps, and that just takes my mind off a lot of things. And you're absolutely right that one has to set goals. You can set a short-term goal. This is what I want to do today, A, B, and C, and you can accomplish that. So set realistic goals. So that is very helpful.
Chris, and I like what you say there, because a lot of people set goals, but sometimes they're just unrealistic goals. You need to set yourself realistic goals that you can achieve on a daily basis and that you might just be able to achieve on a monthly basis, a yearly basis. But if you don't set yourself realistic goals and you keep on failing, it just puts you in a very bad space. So I always say to people, set yourself goals that you can achieve. It might be just a goal for today. And if you achieve that goal, reward yourself. I don't say reward yourself badly or in a way that, you start drinking, whatever. Reward yourself and saying, listen, I've achieved it. I feel good about it. And let's move on and set the next goal for yourself. And if you didn't reach that goal, maybe reassess the goal and say, why didn't I make it that day? So what do I need to do differently to achieve the goal the next day? We need to take bite-sized chunks of the realities that we've been set. And not everybody's got the same reality. We all been dealt different cards, and what we do with those cards, it makes a huge difference. So, set realistic goals for yourself. And when you do get that goal, reward yourself. Whether it is going to the shop and buying yourself a coffee, that's a reward. For me, that's a simple reward. So, you've earned it.
Yeah, that's very helpful, Owen. That's really helpful. What comes with mental health issues is taboo. So here in South Africa, as I started this organization, Minds of Good Health, I found out that when you talk about depression, schizophrenia, and all that, it comes with unhelpful stigma. In my culture, when I started battling with depression, people just thought that I was crazy. And in fact, in a Zulu word, they said "nyahlanya," and which was hurtful for me. And I wonder how we can tarnish, how we can eradicate stigma and this taboo associated with mental health. Just in your words, how do you think as a society we can tarnish stigma, taboo associated with mental health?
I totally agree with you, Chris. Another thing is also, the stigma around being a man and being depressed. A lot of people in South Africa will say, a woman is allowed to cry and feel depressed, but how dare a man do that? It's just the way our society is wired, unfortunately. But you can be a breadwinner and still not feel a sense of fulfillment, a sense of purpose. And that's when the depression starts setting in. And it's difficult as a man because you're not allowed to be emotional. And people say to you, how dare you be emotional? You're a man. You're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to feel sad. But, society slowly is changing. We're understanding the scourge of mental health. And we need to start, speaking out about it. That's the most important thing as a man, speaking out about it. And if you're not feeling well, then speak to your closest friend and say, listen, something's just not right. I'm feeling this way. And maybe that person will be able to open up to you. And if it's not your best friend, then seek professional help. There's nothing wrong with looking for professional help if that's what you need. I mean, there's plenty of times where I just feel down and out, and I think to myself, what am I doing? How do I get through this day? But you then realize that, okay, it's going to pass. For some people, it doesn't pass at all. It feels longer and just feels like the hole is getting deeper and you're getting swallowed up, and you're losing sense of all purpose in life. And I'd never want to get to a point like that. And I can only imagine what some people are going through, but we need to talk about it. And the most important thing is to be open and honest and not keep it to yourself. A lot of men will keep things like this to themselves and not talk about it to anybody, even if it's a family member, or they'll think to yourselves, like you said, it's taboo. You can't say anything. But we need to be open and honest with ourselves and start talking about it because it is a real thing. Mental health is something that we can have to deal with. And especially now during COVID-19, all of a sudden you're finding yourself isolated. You're all by yourself. You're in a dark, lonely place because you don't get to mingle with people. And I'm fortunate enough every day that I get to speak to somebody, or, on our radio show, we got 4 hours together, and it seems like it's a laugh a minute, we having so much of a good time. But at the same time, yes, there's serious moments during the show where, you hear these stories and that gets to you, it hurts you. And you have to switch off from it and realize, okay, fine. I don't want to hear that story anymore because it's just too much for me to handle. And then you get out of it, and then, you think lighter things. But all those bad stories start catching up with you and affects you some way or another, and you have to deal with it. And if you can't deal with it by yourself, my best advice is always talk to somebody about it.
That's very helpful, Owen. As someone said that this COVID, in a way, it is a blessing in disguise because we get to know ourselves. So we are removed from the hustle and bustle of our daily lives. And I mean, there's alcohol suspension and everything. So you are faced with yourself. And so you have to realize, well, who am I? And then maybe you don't like that kind of person that you are facing now. And you are uncomfortable with that. And so indeed you have to speak to someone. And people have this notion that psychologists are expensive, psychiatrists are expensive. Indeed they are, but there are platforms like Minds of Good Health, where we have
yes,
really good people. We're not charging anything. We just say to people, come and chat to us. I'm not a psychologist by profession or anything. I'm just a guy who has battled, and I say, look, if you need to talk, come and chat to us. I mean, it's great to have public figures like you who are able to say, guys, talk about this. You know, if you talk to a friend, go and see a professional. And so this is really helpful. And so the information is out there, and I really plea to my fellow South Africans to really go out and seek that help. And
I mean, Chris, you said that the COVID-19 pandemic is a blessing. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time, I guess. Like you said, we get to learn a bit more about ourselves, because there's a lot of people out there and a lot of men out there that also need to be surrounded by people all the time and don't get to know themselves very well. And now all of a sudden they find themselves all isolated and having to deal with themselves on a daily basis with nobody else around. And like you said, you might not like that person, or you're finding that, okay, fine, I'm dealing with my issues now in the best possible way, that maybe when I get out of this, I'm going to be a better person. So yeah, it's a curse and a blessing at the same time. But I guess for a lot of people out there, they're looking at it as more of a curse. But like you said, let's work at something and try to get out of this as best as possible and learn about ourselves. You know, I found that I enjoy the peace and quiet of being alone at times. But there's times where I know I need to be around people. Otherwise, I'm not going to be the same person. You know, it's difficult. You can only do with peace and quiet for so long before you need the care, the love, the compassion of people and friends and family around you.
Owen, just before we wrap up things, any last remarks, encouraging words to South Africans during this time? Any just motivational words, really?
Well, the most important thing is to realize that this COVID-19 pandemic will pass at some stage. We don't know when, but the most important thing is to, you know, let's be safe, be sound, look after ourselves, look after our families and friends by social distancing, keeping our hands clean. We've heard these messages over and over again, but spare thought for those who don't have anything, for those who find themselves destitute and struggling at a time like this. It can't be easy. I would never want to be in a position like that, but where we can spare a hand or a helping hand, might not be money. It might just be a moment, like you said, with your organization, listening to somebody. That is help in its own, and make a big difference in somebody's life. So, you know, I take my hats off to you, Chris, and your organization. I take my hats off to everybody else that's, you know, put their lives on the front line by helping other people out during this difficult time. And let's stand together. Let's fight this. And we know that that's on the curve, and we're going to get through this. And I guess when we do get through this, you're a survivor, like everybody else is. And we'll be a better person. We'll be a better country. We'll be a better planet after all of this is passed.
Great. Owen, this warms my heart. Thank you very much for your time once again, and your encouraging words indeed. I really, really appreciate that, Owen. And yeah, may you be blessed and stay safe, brother.
Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate it.
Cool. Cheers. Bye.